here today because we have Elena and Rachel to do their sessions as part of World Week. So it's around the world 50 minutes, and hopefully you can explore some of the fabulous things around the world in just less than 50 minutes. So today, thank you so much for coming, and we have Elena Rodriguez Falcon and Rachel Horn. I'm trying to pronounce the names really good.
You did very well.
Thank you. Presenting to all of us international learning and teaching in engineering. And they will deliver an extended talk for about 15 minutes, so hopefully you will enjoy it. And I'll leave you to guys to start.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you.
So to start with, I just wanted to say that Russell Ackoff from the University of Pennsylvania said the principal benefit of living abroad is that it enables us to get glimpses of ourselves as others see us, and to realise that others' views are more accurate than our own. Progress, therefore, begins with grasping the truth about ourselves, however unpleasant that may be. Okay, with that just to think about, other people have a different view of you from yourselves. We're going to introduce ourselves. We've already been introduced by Peggy, but I'm Rachel.
I'm Elena.
I'm English.
I'm Mexican.
Okay, so we're starting from other sides of the world here. Why start here? Well, no matter what discipline you're involved in, you'll be working throughout your life with people from across the world. It may be in this country, it may be... And we're both engineers. We work on projects. Many projects, particularly in engineering, are international. So we expect our students to be working internationally. Before we get started, we know there are at least 2 spelling mistakes on these slides. Elena's brought some Mexican treats.
I have.
Anybody who manages to spot spelling mistakes.
How do I move the presentation? So, if you spot a spelling mistake, just stop us, and you'll get a Mexican treat, okay? Yeah. Oh, crikey. There.
Okay. So, as I said, I'm used to working with projects, and there's lots of different types of projects. You may be working on a domestic project. That's one that's working in your own native country. Even then, you may be working with people who aren't from your country. You may be working overseas. That's a project done in a different country, but for your own company. So I may have an overseas assignment. You may be working on a foreign project. That's one that's done in another country for another company. And you may be working in global multidisciplinary teams, working in multicultural companies. And that could be an international company come into Britain and you're working for them. It could be part of a multicultural workforce. There are projects now that, because they follow the time zone, they will start in Beijing, move to the Middle East or Western Asia somewhere, and then move to the UK and over to the US. So things go all the way around the world. So you may be able to travel internationally from your seat at work. But there's certain things that means you need to do. And there's various things that you need to think about if in future you consider working on international projects. If you're running your own projects, you might want to think about how you select the right project. Have you got environmental factors affecting it? Are you going to get the right solution if you haven't thought of these things across the world that are going to affect your project? You might want to think about global expansion. What is it going to affect? How is that going to affect your project? How is it going to affect the solutions that you choose? You might need to think about the challenges of working in foreign cultures. Everybody thinks engineering is difficult. The numbers and sums, and we have some very, very clever people at the hard engineering. But the things that make engineering projects go wrong most often are these bits, because they don't always think about it. They're much more messy. The people part of engineering is the messy part of it. And then the selection of training of overseas managers might be important to your project as well. So, next slide. What can be good about international assignments? So as an employee, there's lots of things that might improve your lifestyle by going abroad, and there's things that you've got to think about that aren't so positive. So on the positive side, it could be increased income. It might not be too. It could be increased responsibilities. They might give you career opportunities, opportunities for foreign travel, and new lifetime friends. But there's an opposite to all of those. It might be nice having career opportunities and opportunities for foreign travel when you're young, free and single, but if you've got a family left at home, that's a bit more difficult. There may be, especially with the situation in the world at the moment, personal security risks. You might want to take those into consideration. You may be missing career opportunities back home if you're overseas. And big one, difficulties with foreign language, culture and laws. When I graduated from my degree many years ago, my first job was actually on the construction of Disneyland Paris. And I got that job because I spoke French, because a friend of mine, it was done by personal connection, they knew that I'd done A-level French and said, we've got a job going off and nobody in my company speaks French. Will you come up and help us try and set the project out? And I landed in Paris, was given a phone card, this was pre-mobile phones, pre-mobile phones, and sent down to the telephone box to get some toilets connected, to get a septic tank put in, to get a kitchen connected, to get showers and porta cabins made, all on A-level French. I was thrown at the deep end. A fantastic learning opportunity. Elena travels all the time.
Well, I travel all the time. I came first from Mexico here, and of course our as lecturers, our international project really is all of you. If you think about it, I'm a Mexican engineer working in a multicultural environment with students from all over the world. So that is complex, to say the least, particularly if you don't understand different cultures. And if you, I'll give you an example that I was giving someone earlier. My first group of duties that I had two Malaysian students, male Malaysian students. One student from Pakistan and one student from England. I knew nothing about cultures apart from me being Mexican and being happy and all the things that we are Mexicans stereotypically. First semester finished and we got the marks back from the students, and I was really happy because they did so well, particularly this Malaysian student. So I went and I said to this guy, do you mind if I touch you? I said, well done. I didn't realize that this student was a Malaysian Muslim student. And I didn't know what it meant at that point. Now I do, because I saw it happening in front of my eyes. Something happened. I kind of lost my student right there and then, and I just didn't know for years what had happened. I just didn't understand the cultural implications of what I had done. And it was very difficult to regain the trust of that student. It will never happen to me again. And that's why I asked this young man, can I touch you? Because now I know that I have to make sure that my actions are clearer, because otherwise I can ruin my project. And you are my project. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. We talked about some of the issues you might have to think about if you are going to be working in a different culture, a different country than your own. So one of the major challenges that international project managers face is the reality that what works at home might not work in a foreign environment. You can seem arrogant if you make too many assumptions about your background being the dominant, your background being the norm. And if you understand the culture that you've gone into, you'll probably have a better experience. Elena's got another anecdote.
Yes. My first line manager here at the university was a head of department who then moved to the United States. And they kept in touch year on year for Christmas. They sent a letter. And I have their letter from 2007. They had been there already for 2 or 3 years. And I always like to bring this letter with me, and I know they wouldn't mind, because it says something really interesting. Dear all, it starts, and this is the wife of the head of department. Well, we have been here for 3 years, and this is my 4th Christmas letter home. What was once novel and shocking is now our norm. So when they arrived there,
they were in huge shock. And in fact, I remember this lady saying, "Oh my God, these Americans don't know how to do these things and we do it better at home and blah, blah, blah." But 3 years later, it was their norm.
So we can adapt. Some of the other issues you might need to think about. Political stability and security. It's really important in how a project works to understand and whether a project will work, whether the situation you've gone into is politically stable. My brother works on developing wind farms, but a lot of those are developed in the Middle East, and he's in a country, he's out of a country. He has to phone up to find out what the situation is before he can go there, because obviously his safety and security is just as important as the project. But it means that projects can take a much longer time to develop if you're going into unstable situations. You want to say anything about Mexico?
Yeah, so for example, in Mexico we have not just the stereotype, but a reality that there is big corruption in the country.
Although I was surprised yesterday, I saw some statistics about the 10, 12 most corrupted countries in the world. Am I in the wrong one? Mexico wasn't as bad as I thought, so I'm not criticizing home, but it still needs to get better. And there was a lot of security problems back in the last few years, so there are things that we need to recognize when we are traveling.
Geography can make a big, big difference. Partly it might be the distance you've got to travel and the costs you've got to factor in, but actually climate. Geography links directly to climate. How many of you have come from here from overseas? And how many of you are used to a nice, warm, sunny climate? How many of you, and with plenty of sunshine, how many of you landed here beginning of October, just as we're heading into winter? It's getting dark, it's getting cold, it's getting miserable, and everyone's gone down with an illness. It's normal for me, but it's not for you lot. So again, there's that adaptability, that time to adapt.
Or the other way around. Let's take
Rachel all the way to Monterrey in the north of
Mexico, where we get 45 centigrade.
Well, did voluntary work for a while in Belize.
Oh my God!
And trying to work there. It's hot.
Do you have 4 seasons in Mexico?
Yes, we do.
I mean, like in Malaysia, because I'm from Malaysia.
Yeah.
In Malaysia, there's no 4 seasons, so it's always warm and nice.
Oh.
No, the extremes, for example, can be really bad. So from hot to cold, you get illnesses, depression, all sorts of problems. From cold to hot, inefficiency, really exhaustion, lethargy. You feel sleepy after lunchtime. That's when all of
normal.
That's for you.
So there's lots of things you've got to take into account, including infrastructure. Is there the infrastructure in the country to achieve the project you're doing? If there's no electricity, there's no point building a nice shiny new hospital to solve to cure all the diseases, because they won't be able to staff it and put all the equipment in as required. So you've got to take those into account. But one of the biggest things you've got to overcome is culture, and that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of this thing here. Now, Elena, we're just going to show you something here. We're talking about the touchy-feely scale here, okay? Take one step that way, Elena.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm English, and I'm on this side of the touchy-feely scale. Elena is Mexican. She's there on typical Mexican on the touchy-feely scale. Now go a bit further that way, Elena. A bit further, and a bit further, and a bit further. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, that's Elena on the personal touchy-feely scale. She's really touchy-feely. And where am I? I'm over here, okay? Disappearing through the wall.
So am I. This is not as far as I
And this was the situation we had when we first got to know each other. And what happened? Elena comes along. Oh, hello.
Hello, I'm Elena Rodriguez Falcon. It was worse than hugging a piece of wood. But as we got to know each other. This is 10 years now. 10 years now. 10 years now. Come with me, come with me, come with me, come with me. Give me a home, Rachel. Now
Just about there.
It won't go as much as with Peggy.
Sorry, I'm quite a hyper person.
Yeah, so
So I suppose what we're saying there is there are stereotypes, there are cultural differences, but on top of that there's characteristics that come from your personality, from your family, from all sorts of things. So you can't completely stereotype people, but there are cultural differences that's worth understanding.
Yes, I'll take over for a little while to look at the cross-cultural considerations. So if we take a definition, this definition, for example, then culture is a system of shared norms, beliefs, values, nationality, customs, so that bind people together. I think we'll all agree that that defines culture more or less. So that basically means that as a community, we then have things that makes us who we are, and it's sometimes difficult to move past who we are, particularly if we go to a different culture. Similarly, for those who receive us, because they are in their own culture, it is difficult for them to adapt to the people who come to their culture.
So there are cultural differences, of course. Between cultural difference, you'll find there are different geographical regions, ethnic or religious groups. We are all very familiar about everything that is happening right now and how those things are affecting our world, language, economic considerations. So just an example, right or wrong, Americans in general are perceived to be a group of people that are not particularly open and parochial, have a parochial view of the world. They see the world through their own eyes. I don't think that is specific to Americans. Actually, I think that is what happens to all of us. We go to a new place. I came to a new place and saw my world through my own eyes, and I went and hugged Rachel, of course. But that can cause a problem. So the other way around, for example, we international students and staff come to the UK, and for us it's easier to start challenging our own points of view. Easier, not easy, easier, because suddenly we are dropped into this environment where things are very different and you don't know what to do, but you know that you have to do something because you feel so uncomfortable. But for people who are from the UK, home students, home staff, can you challenge your own points of view and challenge your own parochial view of yourselves when at home? That's one question that we need to ask ourselves. So, talking about the ethnocentric perspective, which is the tendency to believe that one's cultural values and ways of doing things are superior to all others. Some stereotypes might be closer to reality, some are not. But I think it is very important that we are aware that the things that we do at home are not superior to someone else's ways of doing things in their own country. They are just different. So let me go back to the letter of my friend, who says in her letter further down, it's a real letter. She says, sorry, I'm getting a bit old. If we have learned anything from living in a foreign country, it is that human nature transcends borders. We are more similar than we are different from people with another nationality. And then she says later on, college sport in our region, she's talking about the United States, is what Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United are to Sheffield. It binds the community together in good-natured loyalty and involves whole families. And I think that's beautiful because this person, it took her 3 years to suddenly find the things that that community offered. So we need to think about those things, but also we have to be careful of how we approach the perceptions that we have, the stereotypes that we have. It's not okay to make assumptions, even though if you have a stereotype that countries are lazy or are corrupt, people tend to feel those things and realize that you are sensing those things. And ignoring the people factor in other cultures, really, it can be a problem. So don't ignore that, but also make adjustments. Relativity of time and punctuality. For example, for Americans, time is money. And that, so I work with Americans as a Mexican, as a British academic. But for example, if you go to Peru, you can be late 45 minutes, and that is perfectly acceptable. In fact, if you arrive earlier, it might not be correct what you do. So, for example, in Mexico, you are taught to do business with your friends and family because you might not be able to trust other people. So you go to Mexico, you make friends. That's is what you do. You hug people. Yeah, you hug people. In fact, I've lived in this country now for nearly 18 years. In January, I arrived the 13th of January 1998. It was cold, very cold, very cold. And I got ill very quickly. So, yes, people didn't hug me back then. It was rather upsetting, actually. Yeah. So, yes, if you understand what the issue is, then you can get past these professional and personal relationships and land the deals. So we're talking about projects, and I want you, because I don't know which disciplines you come from, but we are engineers, but a project can be any type of thing. So I refer to you are a project as a business, as a lecturer, but you might be a social scientist, you might be a medic, you might be an architect. Your projects will be whatever you get to do, even personal projects, and they are important. Yes, that's that. So how do you get about these things? Well, you make sure that you rely on the things that are in place, like translators, social connections, expeditors, cultural advisors and guides. You rely on those people because they make it easy for you to do the deal. You trust them, you pay them, and you make sure that they go about the cultural nuances of the place without you being slowed down. But sometimes you have to educate them as well.
When I was in Paris, in Disneyland, they couldn't accept that there was a female engineer, and they wouldn't talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
The owner of the concrete centre wouldn't talk to me. I was the only person on my company that spoke French, and he wouldn't talk to me. He wanted to speak to the project manager, and he didn't speak English. Okay, we're talking quite a few years ago now, but we had to educate him that I was an engineer and didn't know what I was talking about, and he could talk to me.
Yeah, that's correct.
But we mustn't underestimate cultural shock. This is very important, and those of us who've gone to different places know that this is a real thing. So thinking about those of us who came to this country, you remember when you arrived? How exciting was it? It wasn't exciting for you.
It wasn't, because it was raining.
Oh yeah, but the first few days it feels like, oh, it's new.
Yeah, definitely.
It's new. It's different. People don't understand me quite so much. It's a bit funny, isn't it? I don't understand what they're saying either. They call me love, and I don't know why. It's true. But then, after a few days, that kind of disappears. It's not fun anymore. I don't know what they are saying. I'm hungry. I don't feel well. It's horrid. It's raining. They don't hug me. And so on and so forth. Oh, I know. It was very sad. I've trained people very well now. And so after a while, things start to sort of settle down. Not only people learn about you, but you start learning very quickly about the culture and you start adapting. You know now that you shouldn't hug them if you don't know them very well, that you should ask, that there are different ways of doing things, and you start to adapt, and things start getting better. You start to adapt. But it can take up to 6 months. Now, think about postgraduate students here at the university. They are here for a year. It can take half a year for international students to adapt. So we ought to challenge ourselves at home and remember that it is important for ourselves to help. It's important for us, international people, to ask for help because we only have a year if you are a postgraduate student. And if half a year you are going through that cultural shock, it might be that you struggle, and we know what happens for postgraduate students. They struggle, and that's the truth.
So it's important if you are international and you want to interact, you want help, you've got to ask for it. If you're a home student and you're surrounded by other home students, sorry, it doesn't cross your mind because you haven't put yourself into those shoes of somebody else who is struggling. I always find it a pity that we used to send our students out in their last semester to go and study in Europe, some of them. And one girl came back to me, she said something, she said, I just want to go and find an international student to love, because now I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
But she'd spent 4 years of not doing that. And people don't think about what it must be like. So you've got to help them. If you're wanting to interact, you've got to help them by making them realise, meet them halfway.
Yeah, meet them halfway.
And home students, meet them halfway.
Yes, indeed. So,
how do you cope with cultural shock? And this is important, going back to our international projects, okay? So trying to create stability zones that closely recreate home. So eating your food, meeting friends from your own countries. Nowadays, Skype is a wonderful thing. You can call mom and dad and see them. When I first came, as Rachel said, I had to buy a really expensive telephone card with credit that only lasted about 3 or 4 minutes, and it was really, really upsetting because I could only call my mom and dad every 2 weeks for 3 or 4 minutes because it was that expensive. But nowadays, you don't have to do that. Modify expectations and behavior. This means our expectations and our behaviors by redefining priorities and develop realistic expectations. So if you go to a different country and you know that you're going to be there for 3 or 4 years, like some of us, then you know that you can expect to get back to normal. But if you know that you're going to be there only for 6 months, you have to modify your expectations. Whatever you expect to achieve might not be as much as you wanted at first, and then you have to prepare for it. But really, enjoy what you achieve when you achieve it. It's important. If you achieve something, go wow, how amazing am I?
One of my friends, talking about modify your expectations and behaviour, one of my friends got a job in America and took his wife over there. In fact, I've got 2 friends that have done this, and I've noticed a trend. They go over there, the male of the family is working, and because of the green card system, the wife isn't allowed to work. I went and stayed with one, and she said, I'm not even allowed to do voluntary work. And she was bored. And funny enough, both of these friends came back with a family. They found another project. They modified their expectations and behaviour. And set themselves on the goals.
Actually, I was going to say, it is, if you
way for a work project, work project can be a bridge to move forward. But what happens with, say, for example, PGR students or members of staff, and I'm referring really a lot about at university, but if you go away with a spouse or a partner, and if they went there with you, it might be that they don't speak the language, and various other things, and you can't underestimate how important that may be. It happened to various of my colleagues and various of our PGR students that their spouses just got really depressed and ill. And what ended up happening is that the PGR students, the PhD students, had to spend a lot of time home trying to get their spouses to come out of that cultural shock, and their PhDs getting affected because of that. So we mustn't underestimate those things. Exercise is very important. exercise is very important if you like exercising. Rachel and I had some.
Okay, there's questions about riding bikes as well. We've had our tails told.
Yeah, yes. Not.
Right, Elena ended up in a hedge.
And I was riding with Rachel, who is an award-winning national triathlete. You still have the award to show it. But yes, I ended up inserted in a hedge. But that's another story, everyone who are watching us. So, back to Rachel.
Back to me. So, if I was a project manager and I was selecting, or if I'm an employer looking for somebody to work internationally for an international project, what would I look for if I was going to hire someone? I'd be looking for someone with work experience or experience of living in cultures other than one's own. Looking around here, ancestors tick for a lot of you. If you're a home student and you haven't been abroad, a whole load of people here that you're working with that you can use that opportunity to talk to them about and find out about that without going away. It's not the whole experience of going away, but there's opportunities there, and if you don't take that opportunity, you've lost it. Previous overseas travel, we go on holiday. Going on holiday, I used to do triathlon. It's not the same when you're going on holiday as going, as living somewhere and working somewhere, unless you're there for a long time. So again, you've got to, it can start it. Looking for someone with good physical and emotional health. We've already heard from what Elena says, there can be lots of pressures there, and if you're going to get ill, they don't want you the other side of the world. I have friends that have worked in Antarctica. There are cultural issues there, but there's major problems. If you get stuck and you're doing your 6 months down in the winter when no one can get down there because of the situation and you've got illness problems, so again, they'll look for good physical health. Knowledge of the host nation's language, that's what got me my first job overseas. It helps. And least ability to learn or willingness to learn it. Recent immigration background or your heritage, so again, if you've got a permit to work there and that sort of thing, and ability to adapt and function in a new culture. So there's lots of things here that you can take that opportunity. Those of you that are international already, you're well down that scale. If you're home-based, there's things you can do to improve that situation.
Yes, but of course, as I am going back to cultural issues, it's important to understand a foreign culture in other senses of the word. So it's important to understand the religion, dress code, what is appropriate in a country, what is inappropriate, the education system, holiday, national and religious. It's happened, and it happens in many cases where you go to certain countries and you are working whilst they are in their national holiday, and it's actually inappropriate. It's not that you are carry on working as if you were in your country, but in that country it's not appropriate. Daily eating patterns. So I'm from Mexico. I have a nice big breakfast with protein, nice refried beans. Oh, it's lovely. And then at lunchtime, I have a nice rice, meat, refried beans as well, and then a light dinner. But here in the UK, for example, wherever you are, it very much depends on where you are.
If you come from around here, you probably have breakfast and then you have dinner and tea maybe, and if you're further south or elsewhere, it might be breakfast, a light lunch and then supper. It might be afternoon tea in the middle of it there if you're very having one of those la-di-da days.
11 is very important. Family life, how important is family life?
The culture, business protocols. So even presenting business cards. I just presented a business card to my colleague here. What's your name?
Sharon.
Where are you, Sharon, from? Hong Kong. Did I do it correctly? Yes. I don't have to do that to you, do I? No. So you need to learn those protocols because it's appropriate, depending on where you are and where are you from. Social etiquette, way of exchanging gifts.
So we were looking at this, when we were talking about this session, I remembered something that happened to one of our UK government ministers. And I went back to the BBC website. UK minister apologises to Taiwan for watch gaffe. So one of our, I'm not sure what she's minister of, but she gave a watch to the mayor of Taiwan's capital city, Taipei. For those of you that have got Chinese connections, giving a watch, good?
Not good. Not like if you give a clock to somebody else or something related. If you give a clock or watch to somebody else related, it seems like it's more like ending a life. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
That was because in Chinese, I think that was what it gives the meanings of it.
Yes. Susan Kramer said she didn't know giving a clock suggests time is running. Giving a clock suggests that time is running out for the person who receives it in Chinese culture. Big taboo.
Yeah.
She said, I had no idea a gift like this could be seen as anything other than positive. In the UK, a watch is precious because nothing is more important than time.
Yeah. So I have another example. When I first came to
the UK, I used to meet lots of international women at the time, and there is this group of international women, British ladies, really nice. I love them. They are my favorite people in the UK. Marion Maitlis, if you are watching, they invited us to their house. There were two Indonesian ladies, someone from Malaysia, someone from somewhere else, and myself. And these nice ladies put a roast chicken in the middle of the table, which was lovely. It looked really nice. I remember it, and I'm hungry now again. I like food. Anyone watching out there? And something happens. This lady starts carving the chicken and serving it to everyone around the table, and again, you see something happened. I wasn't experienced enough, but something had happened. But these ladies, because they had worked with international women for a long time, they stopped and said, is there a problem? Of course, the other ladies there were too polite to say anything, but they were experienced enough to finally get what had happened out of them. And what happened is that the British ladies were serving the chicken breast, to these ladies, the white meat of the chicken, and in their cultures, the legs that you see more tastier is the meat that you serve to the guests, and so it looked to them like the hostesses were actually giving them the worst meat. Yes, exactly. So we learned that very quickly. Imagine if that had been a business meeting or something that, of course, everything was sorted. Of course, as a Mexican, I talk into anything. Just give me a leg, a piece of that, and I'm happy, just give me meat. But for them, it was a big deal. So you have to consider those things. And of course, equal opportunities. And what does it mean in different countries? And that is a big issue in one country or the other. So we've talked to you all a lot about international projects, about why it's important to have cultural awareness, some of the things that you can do, some of the things that you can more formally do, but all the amount of training and all the amount of awareness is not enough if you don't spend time with people from other cultures and if you don't learn from each other. So we have something to do. Some flags here, but I don't think we have enough representation. Anyone from any of those countries? Please tell me which is your flag. Come and point it out. Yes, and Malaysia. Where are you from? Is Hong Kong there? Yeah. Bravo, Hong Kong. Where are you from? No, well, stand up. The idea is that you come and choose. I know where it is. Well, it's that one, China. China. Where are you from? UK. Go on. Point it out. Point it out. Point it out. Where are you from? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Where are you from? The UK. I'm from the UK, yes. Where are you from? UK. Where are you from? You are from the UK, and I am from Mexico. So However, really, the reality is that we have 27,000 students in this university. Around 30% are international students, including EU and also overseas home students who live in the UK. 117 countries. We have 117 countries in this university. We could only fit a few flags here. So if that's the case, really, we should be learning from each other. So I don't know if people are watching out there, but I'm going to ask everyone watching, including yourselves, if you have a phone, and if you are on Twitter, and if you're not on Twitter, tell someone next door or next to you to please answer these questions. Rachel, come on. Get on. She doesn't know how. That's all right. Okay, let's see what's happening. So we've asked people to tell us where they are from and what language they speak. Anyone? Let's see if this is happening. Just your oh, crikey, chef cultural agility. Let's have a look. What happens?
Can we go back to the previous slide?
Yes, we can, of course.
So do we tweet ourselves? Like,
Yes, yourselves.
Name, country, luggage, age, 1 week.
And Sheffield cultural agility, that's very important. Just write UK.
Do I need to do the app bit there?
No, that's you. No, that's my example. That's me, by the way. So you don't have to tweet me. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, did I move it too quick? Oh, it's not happening. Oh. I don't know why. How do you...
It says pause there.
Oh, there. Ah, it's happening. Matt, British. Who's Matt? Nice to meet you.
Well, am I not doing the right thing? Chef country. I've tried to Twitter it, which is weird.
Yes, I think there is one there coming. So now, what I'm going to ask you to do, we'll stay there, but I'm going to ask you, as things calm down, were you able to tweet? Oh yes, of course. Can you tell Matt, please? And Matt will tweet instead. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Or do I need to give the other bit?
No, that's it.
Okay.
I've done mine, but it's not coming out.
Yes, I don't know why it says it's paused. Shall I click there? Oh no, there.
There we go.
They are coming, they're coming. Peggy is from Malaysia and speaks Chinese, English clearly as well. So now we are going to ask you, anyone out there, to please tweet again, now that you got the hang of it. What is the one thing, once again, write your country, please. What is the one thing that people should do if they were to your country, if they wanted to be successful? So if I went to your country, Elena wants to go to your country, I want to go to Japan, what thing should I do to be successful? What thing should I do if I go to Malaysia to be successful? One thing, one piece of advice.
So we're still using the hashtag?
Yes,
Cultural agility.
Sheffield Cultural Agility. I think they'll come. It just comes slowly. So you are from China. Give me a piece of advice. Write China as well again, please, so that I know. For a project, for a business project. For a business project, what do I do? One piece of advice. There are many. Just give me just one. Maybe two different ones.
Be careful where you are. Take a subway or take a bus, because there are plenty of people. Be careful your words.
Well, write it, please. Write it. It's okay. Yes, it's okay. Things are stuck for some reason. Maybe it's easier to see it on Twitter, isn't it? Oh, there. Things are coming. So Japanese is coming slowly.
On my personal account, I've been tweeting from the staff account, but
Yeah.
I've tried to tweet from there.
They are coming, but they're coming slowly. Okay, so have you tweeted the piece of advice? Now, tell us what is the one thing that we should not do if we went to your country. What is the one thing you shouldn't do? Are they coming again? Shall I go to Twitter rather? Oh, they are coming. Oh, Rachel Jordan. Oh. Oh, everything is coming now. Oh, okay. How did that happen? Oh, I don't know. Okay, so in Britain, let people off the bus leave train before you try to get on. That is important. Bear with the hot weather. Don't wear thick clothes.
That's really, really horrible.
That is in Malaysia. It's important to have dinner or to drink with your boss or colleagues to succeed in your business in Japan. Very important. That makes sense. Be careful when you are in a crowded place in China. That is important as well. I haven't written mine from Mexico, but in Mexico, be friendly because we trust our friends and family. Now, let's try the other way around. What thing we should not do if we went to your country? Please try to put your country, and then a piece of, yeah, because now I got to know you, but people out there won't know which country you're referring to. So which piece of advice you would give to people not to do in your country? Oh, I've never seen Rachel tweeting. I actually have to take a picture of her. Rachel tweeting. Look at that, for posterity. Okay, let's see. In Japan, you shouldn't go home earlier than your boss. That's very interesting. So you wait until your boss goes home. So that's interesting. Is there anyone from a country where if you work during the holidays, the national holidays, is inappropriate? If you work during the national holidays, is seen as inappropriate?
In my country, if you work in a government organisation, then you shouldn't be working on national holiday. But if you work in a private organisation, then you should be fine.
Ah, yeah, okay. Yeah. In my country, in Mexico, yes. Go on.
I've done it wrong, that's why.
Well, she's tweeting, but she's she's doing it very hard. That's, you know. So, examples. In China, one thing that you shouldn't do in your country.
In China, you'd better not interrupt your boss or the teacher.
Okay.
Meeting or class.
That's very interesting. Another piece of advice? Okay, so that's a very interesting point. And it's the opposite here. And that it's worth it mentioning it to everyone who's watching. Because one thing I shouldn't do when I go to your country is interrupt. But now we are in this country. You are not from here, I'm not from here. So neither of us are from here. Yes, absolutely. In fact, I've been waiting for someone to interrupt me to tell me that there was a spelling mistake. No one has interrupted me. Did you see one?
I actually didn't see one though. Like everyone tried to go through. I still remember what you were saying.
You haven't seen it? Oh, well, maybe because I haven't showed you all the slides. I thought you didn't want any.
I wasn't sweet, but I can't see it.
Don't show them.
Oh, do you see it?
Well, you told them, so it's not. You told them, so.
So I get the sweetie.
Yes, you do. So this is the second one that I showed you. So I said in Mexico, be friendly, which basically, as Rachel would say, that means hug me. No, it's not true. And Rachel would say in the UK, don't be rude, which basically means don't hug me. No, it's not true. I'm just joking. So just going back to that point, because we're running out of time, we both are in this country. We are not from this country. So as much as we expect people to treat us with our traditions, it's easier for us to adapt to these traditions. So the opposite is here. And when I am teaching students from all over the world, and I say, interrupt me, correct my English even, I actually give people prizes for correcting my English because I want to improve. It only happens that the British people or the Western people interrupt me. Asian people don't interrupt me. Even when I say, please interrupt me, they don't. And I think it's important that we also learn to adapt. And it's important. So we're going to, I think, leave it there. We want to say thank you to all of you for coming today. Everyone, thank you, whoever you are out there. But also, please send us your advice. Hashtag Chef Cultural Agility. What to do, what not to do in your country, because we are all learning from each other. 27,000 students, 117 countries. We can learn here at home how to perform in multicultural environments. And I hope your thank you is there. In my own language, gracias.
Thank you.
Any other languages represented here? Anyone?
Merci.
Merci.
I can see Malay as well, through Makassar.
Hong Kongese. Hong Kong. Tokyo. Any other languages? Dankeschön. Thank you very much. I hope this was of help, and thank you for coming. And if you are not allergic to peanuts, please comment and get a Mexican sweet.
Just want to express that on behalf of the Students' Union and also the university as well. Thank you very much to Elena and Rachel for today's wonderful speech. It was a great presentation. It was good. It was fun as well. Thank you very much. And thanks for coming.
Gracias.
And please, for all of you who are still, like, obviously students as well, feel free to attend all the events that's going to be happening throughout Warwick. And if you haven't got a booklet, that's one for you.
Oh, yeah.
That's one. Thank you very much.
So if you have, can we have a selfie all together?
Yeah.
Yeah.